One of our challenges when we're trying to learn SQL Server is that we can download we can download an eval copy of it, and when we do that, we get the full platform, but we don't have any user data. Now we've got system databases, but we don't have any user data that we can really play with. Now Microsoft actually has addressed this, and they have created the AdventureWorks sample database, which is a sample database we can download, put into our SQL Server, and it'll give us some sample data to play with. So let me show you how we can do that. I'm going to open up my web browser, and I'm just going to do a search for download AdventureWorks, it's all one word, database. And that's going to pop up right here. We're going to see docs.microsoft.com samples AdventureWorks. All right, let's click on that link. Now, this will give us a link to the AdventureWorks sample database, and it will tell us right here the different types. We've got OLTP, data warehouse version, a lightweight version, and you can see under each one the list of files. And so what you do is you pick the one that you want, the version OLTP, data warehouse, or lightweight for the version of SQL that you have. And now I've got AdventureWorks, or I've got SQL Server 2019, so I downloaded the AdventureWorks 2019.bak file, and that's just a straight backup file. And if you go on down a little bit more, you're going to see it tells you how to restore that backup file. Now, I've already downloaded it, and then just to make my life easier, I moved it from the downloads folder to the root of the C drive. And that's just going to make it easier for me to find it in the SSMS when I go to restore it. So I'm going to go into my SSMS, my SQL Server Management Studio, and I'm going to right click on databases. Now I want you to see here I have my system databases, but I don't have any user databases. So I'm going to right click on databases and go to restore. Now this is big. I don't want to create a new database. I just want to restore an existing one. So a couple of things here. Under source, you're going to choose so we can the sources database will allow us to look at sources for specific databases. But we don't have one because we haven't done a backup of this database before. So we're going to choose, and this is kind of not intuitive, but we're going to choose device. Now technically a file is a device for SQL backup. So we're going to click our little three dots over here, and we're going to select our device. And so notice our media backup media type, it can be a file or a URL. We're going to add a file, and we're going to go to, remember I moved that to the C drive to make my life easy. I'm going to go to C drive, AdventureWorks 2019.bak, and hit OK. And then OK one more time. And that will load it, and you see I have a full AdventureWorks database backup. You can see the name, the component, the type, the database name, and a checkbox here is by the things that I want to restore. So I want to go ahead and restore this one. Now, this is kind of interesting. You'll only see one here, but a backup file for SQL can contain multiple different backups. So that's where that checkbox comes kind of into play. I can choose to verify backup media if I want. I'm pretty sure this is going to be okay, so I'm just going to hit OK. And now it'll start up here. You see it's restoring the AdventureWorks 2019.bak file. Now, when it gets done, and this might take it a little while, but when it gets done, that database should pop up over here, and then I'll have my AdventureWorks database that I can then explore, experiment with, write queries against, do whatever I want. It basically gives me sample data to work with as I'm learning SQL. And so this becomes, for those of us who are trying to experiment and learn it, a very, very wonderful tool. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video. If you've been following along, just go ahead and let it run. You should see progress indicator down here, progress indicator up here. Notice we're about, 50% of the way through. We'll go ahead and let this run, and then we should be able to see what it's done here in just a minute. All right, database was restored successfully. Click OK. And now we have our system databases, our database snapshots, and here is our AdventureWorks database. And if we expand it, we're going to see that it's complete with tables and data and all kinds of stuff now that we can work with as we're learning SQL.